of you. This is 12th class biology chapter 11 biotechnology principles and processes, and this is lecture number 2 of this chapter. Today we will discuss about nomenclature of restriction endonucleases, palindromic sequences and cloning vectors. In that we will also discuss features of cloning vectors. Previous lecture we were doing about the tools of recombinant DNA technology, and we were doing about the first tool, that is restriction enzymes. Today we will do about the nomenclature of restriction endonucleases, that how these endonucleases like EcoR1, so how the names are given to these restriction endonucleases. So in this EcoR1, first letter indicates genus. Okay, so in each restriction endonuclease, first letter indicates genus. So E is for the genus Escherichia. Then second two letters like CO, these are representing species of the prokaryotic cell from which they were isolated. So this is CO for the coli species. Then third letter is representing strain of that particular bacteria from which this restriction endonuclease has been isolated. For example, which strain is here in this EcoR? Strain name is RY13, because this restriction endonuclease has been isolated from Escherichia coli RY13 strain. That's why its name is EcoR. And why this 1 is here? This is Roman number 1 is here. It is the order in which enzymes were isolated from that strain of bacteria. Okay, so Roman numbers indicate order. Next topic is palindromic sequences. In previous lecture we were discussing about the recognition sequences, that there are some sequences on DNA on which restriction endonucleases bind, and only at that site those enzymes can cut the DNA, right? So restriction endonucleases recognizes a specific palindromic nucleotide sequences which are present in DNA. Okay, so which sequences are recognized by restriction endonucleases? These are palindromic nucleotide sequences. Now what are these palindromic nucleotide sequences? It is a sequence of base pairs that read the same on two strands, because there are two strands in DNA, one having polarity 5' to 3' and another is having polarity 3' to 5'. Okay, so this sequence read the same on two strands, 5' to 3', or on the other strand if we are reading it from 3' to 5' direction. Like you can see here, this one strand is having polarity 5' to 3' direction. So if we are reading it from here, GAATTC it is. Okay, and on another strand also, if you are reading it from 5' to 3', then this sequence will be GAATTC. Okay, it is same if we are reading it from the same direction of two strands. Okay, if we are reading from the 3' end, then it is CTTAAG, and on this strand also if we are reading from 3' direction, it is CTTAAG. So such kind of sequences are called palindromic sequences. Here are some examples of palindromic sequences for different enzymes. So this first is palindromic sequence for ALU1, and that is AGCT, and this enzyme cut DNA between G and C. Likewise it is for HAY3, and palindromic sequences GGCC, and it is cutting between G and C. Then this is a palindromic sequence for BAMH1, then for HEN3, and this for EcoR1. Now you can see these two enzymes, ALU1 and HAY3. These two enzymes produce blunt ends. Blunt ends, like you can see, there will be no overhanging structure. Both strands of DNA are cut at same side by these two enzymes, ALU1 and also by HAY3. You can see. So these overhanging structures will not be there. That's why these ends of the DNA, there will be two parts of DNA, two fragments of DNA will be formed, and those fragments of DNA will have blunt ends. That's why we are saying that these enzymes produce blunt ends. Now these ends or these fragments of DNA produced by these enzymes are different from ends of DNA produced by these enzymes. As you can see their cutting pattern, difference in their cutting pattern, like these three enzymes, BAMH1, HIN3 and EcoR1. These are cutting DNA like this. So one strand will have this overhanging structure, okay. One fragment of DNA will have this structure overhanging like a GATC sequence, and another DNA strand, it will be cut it down here, and it will have also this overhanging structure. So these overhanging structure will be there, and that's why these ends are called sticky ends, right? So the ends of DNA produced by these three enzymes are called sticky ends, and these sticky ends it will be easier to attach the DNA strands with each other, okay. With this DNA having these sticky ends will be easier to get attached with each other, while in case of LU1 and HE3 where the blunt end are produced, this task will be difficult. This is about action of a restriction enzyme, and in your syllabus it is about EcoR1 enzyme. So this is action of restriction enzyme EcoR1, that how it is cutting the DNA strand, okay. So we use the same restriction enzyme for cutting vector DNA and for cutting foreign DNA. Same restriction enzyme is used, okay, because if we will use the same enzyme, then same type of ends will be produced for the DNA, and it will be easier to ligate. Ligate means to join that vector DNA with the foreign DNA, right? That's why same restriction enzyme is used here. So let's start it, how it works. So this is vector DNA and this is foreign DNA, okay. And this sequence you can see here, this is palindromic sequence, and this is the recognition sequence for EcoR1. So this is fixed. For always EcoR1 recognize this sequence. Either the DNA is of vector or it is any foreign DNA, that DNA of our interest you can say, okay, our desirable DNA, our desirable gene that we want to deliver in the host, right? So it always recognize the same sequence, and that sequence is GAATTC. This is a palindromic sequence for EcoR1. This you need to learn. Now what happened? The enzyme cuts both DNA strands at same site. Same site means here you can read it. The sequence is GAATTC, and it is cutting. This is the cutting site of this whole sequence is recognized by EcoR1, and exactly it cut it here between G and A, okay. So this is the cutting site for EcoR1 between guanine and adenine. And in another strand also you can see here it cut the DNA between adenine and guanine, right? This is cutting site for EcoR1, and this complete is recognition site for EcoR1. In foreign DNA also it cut between G and A, and here also it will cut between G and A. So this is fixed for EcoR1. Now what will happen when it will cut it between G and A? You can see here this stretch of DNA will be separated from here, like from here to here, okay. When the EcoR1 will work here, this stretch of DNA will be separated, so a structure like this will be produced, okay. And this type of end of DNA is called sticky end, because it can stick with another strand of DNA, with another fragment of DNA, sorry. So it can stick with that, okay. So that's why this is called sticky end of DNA. And here also, because it is cutting it from here, that's why the stretch of DNA will be separated, like from here to here it will be separated. Okay, and the same type of and will be produced here also, right? So these two types of DNA, like foreign DNA and vector DNA, both will have sticky ends which can ligate with each other. As you can see here, these will ligate, means this part of DNA DNA will fit here. Okay, so these two types of DNA, like vector DNA and foreign DNA, these will ligate together like this, and the DNA that will be formed due to that ligation will be called recombinant DNA. Okay, recombinant DNA has been formed by the recombination of genetic material of vector, you can say of vector, and from any foreign foreign source, or we can say the foreign DNA and vector DNA. Due to ligation of that, the new DNA that we obtain is called recombinant DNA. Now you know about sticky ends. So how these sticky ends ligate with each other? So these sticky ends form hydrogen bonds with their complementary cut counterparts. Complementary cut counterpart you have seen in their you can say any other fragment of DNA. So their counterpart will be there. Okay, and you know that the nitrogen bases are attached with each other by hydrogen bonding. So obviously these sticky ends are forming hydrogen bonds. Okay, and this stickiness facilitates action of DNA ligase. DNA ligase is helping here to make the hydrogen bonds between these two fragments of DNA, or you can say between these two counterparts of DNA, right? So DNA ligase enzyme is responsible here for the ligation of these two fragments of DNA. Now when cut by the same restriction enzyme, as I have told you that we use same restriction enzyme for cutting the DNA, vector DNA as well as foreign DNA. Okay, so when cut by the same restriction enzyme, the DNA fragments have same kind of sticky ends, right? So they are joined by DNA ligases. Now next tool for recombinant DNA technology, we have done about one tool, that is restriction enzyme. Okay, now next tool is cloning vectors. We know about the action of restriction enzymes. Now we have taken foreign DNA and have used that restriction enzyme for cutting the desired fragment of that DNA, right? Now there will be use of cloning vectors for the recombinant DNA technology. Okay, now these cloning vectors, it is a DNA molecule that can carry a foreign DNA segment and replicate inside the host cell, right? We have discussed about it, that vectors work is to carry the foreign DNA segment up to the host cell, right? And there are different types of cloning vectors which are used for this technology, like plasmids and bacteriophages. These can be used as vectors. So let's know about plasmid first. Plasmids are autonomously replicating circular because plasmid DNA are always circular. Okay, so these are autonomously replicate themselves. Okay, and these are circular, and these are extra chromosomal DNA of bacteria. You know, chromosomal DNA is different DNA present in bacterial cells, and plasmids are extra chromosomal DNA. Some plasmids have only 1 to 2 copies per cell. Others have 15 to 100 copies per cell, right? So number of plasmids in bacterial cell can vary. Now bacteriophages, high number per cell. So number of bacteriophages are more. So their number are more per cell. And these have very high copy numbers of their genome within the bacterial cells. So that's why bacteriophages are considered more efficient than plasmids sometimes, because Plasmids copy number can be only 15 to 100, okay, and in some these are only 1 to 2 copies. But number of bacteriophages are found in large number within the bacterial cells. Because if we talk about the efficiency, that our process will be efficient or not, that depends on the vector's copy number, right? So copy number of plasmids are less than copy number of bacteriophages. Now, when cloning vectors are multiplied in the host, what happens? Why we need these cloning vectors? To transfer the foreign DNA into host, right? So these cloning vectors are also, are transferring in the host cell. So when cloning vectors will multiply in that host cell, the linked piece of DNA is also multiplied to the numbers equal to the copy number of vectors, and that's why I am saying that copy number of vector is very important, okay, because the efficiency of the process depends on the copy number of the vector. If the copy number of the vector is larger, if more copy number is there for the vector, then our gene of our interest, number of that also will be larger, right? So here you can see this is a bacterial cell and these are some plasmids present here, and this is bacteriophage. So both these can be used as cloning vector. Now these are the features required for cloning into a vector. So in a cloning vector, these features must be there. Only then it can transfer a piece of DNA successfully into a host cell and can maintain that in that host cell, okay. So first thing is origin of replication must be there in cloning vector. This origin of replication is also called ORI. Second is presence of selectable marker. Third is cloning sites, and fourth is vectors for cloning genes in plants and animals. So this is a cloning vector. Name of this cloning vector is PBR322, okay, E. coli cloning vector, that is PBR322. Means this vector is used for transferring the DNA, that gene of our interest, into E. coli. So this is cloning vector for E. coli. Now what are the features of this PBR322? You can see these different sites present here in this PBR322, like these EcoR1, CLAV1, HEND3, BAMH1, SAL1, PVU1, PST1. All these, and also PVU2, all these are sites for different restriction enzymes, okay. Means these enzymes can cut this vector DNA at these sites. Like if we use the restriction enzyme BAMH1, then it will cut this vector DNA at this site. If we are using HIND3 as our restriction enzyme, then it will cut this plasmid at this site, okay. So these are different restriction sites, the cutting sites for different restriction enzymes, you can see. So all these are restriction sites which are present in this PBR322. You need to make this diagram and you need to learn all these restriction sites present in this cloning vector, okay. PST1, PVU1, EcoR1. So all these restriction sites you need to learn, and their exact position also. Now antibiotic resistance genes, those are amphicycline resistance and tetracycline resistant, represented by AMP, ampicillin, and tetracycline, TET is for tetracycline. So these ampicillin and tetracycline are antibiotics, and these R, you can see on both this capital R, it is representing resistance. It means these sites have resistance power against these antibiotics, okay. These genes are because this what is this complete structure? This is a DNA, circular DNA. This is plasmid PBR322 and this is a circular DNA basically, okay. And this part of DNA like this gene from here to here, this is responsible for providing the resistance power against tetracycline. And this gene from here to here, this is responsible for providing resistance power against ampicillin, right? So these genes are present here, which are responsible for providing the resistance power against the against these antibiotics. Okay, now ROP, you can see here, this is ROP, rope. It codes for the proteins involved in the replication of plasmid. Okay, for replicating this complete DNA, or you can say the plasmid, these proteins are very important. So these are proteins involved in the replication of plasmid. So you need to learn all these things, that there are some restriction sites present here, then there are two antibiotic resistance genes are present here. These are pink color structure, these are antibiotic resistant genes, and there is one rope gene, rope sequence or rope gene also, which is responsible for the replication of plasmid. Now let's talk about origin of replication. That is first feature of cloning vector, you can say. Okay, that must be there in a cloning vector, and that origin of replication is called ORI. So origin of replication is a sequence where replication starts. A piece of DNA linked to ORI can replicate within the host cell. Okay, so here where the piece of DNA get linked, it get linked with ORI, and it only if it get linked with the ORI, it can replicate within the host cell, because this is origin of replication. Without origin of replication, there is no replication possible. Okay, so replication of that piece of foreign DNA will not be possible without ORI. And also this ORI controls the copy number of linked DNA. That how many copies of that linked DNA will be formed, that is also controlled by ORI. So for getting many copies of target DNA, means that foreign piece of DNA, if we want to make more copies, it should be cloned in a vector whose origin support high copy number. More features of cloning vector we will discuss in next lecture. For today, your homework is NCERT question number 7 and 8. Now let's discuss the homework solution of previous lecture, and this is question number 4 of NCERT, that what would be the molar concentration of human DNA in a human cell. So for measuring the molar concentration of human DNA in a cell, first we need to know about the nucleotide base pairs which are present in human genome, and you know that you have studied about it in chapter 5 and 6, right? And you know that this number is 6.023 into 10 to the power 23. Okay, these total base pairs are present in human genome. So we will multiply these with total number of chromosomes simply. So this is multiplied by 46, that is total number of chromosome, and the resulting result will be the molar concentration of human DNA in a cell. So this is the molar concentration of DNA in each cell, in each of the diploid cell in human. Now this is next question of NCERT, that is do eukaryotic cells have restriction endonucleases? Justify your answer. So answer is no. Eukaryotic cells do not have restriction endonucleases, as the DNA of eukaryotes is highly methylated by methylase. Methylated here means CH4 is attached here. Okay, and methylase is an enzyme which is responsible for this methylation of eukaryotic DNA, and this methylation is a kind of modification. Okay, so this methylation safeguards the DNA from the action of restriction enzyme, right? In prokaryotic cells, these enzymes are present where they aid in preventing the invasion of DNA by virus. So these are present only in prokaryotic DNA. Now this is answer for question number 12 of NCERT. Here you need to differentiate plasmid DNA from chromosomal DNA. So plasmid DNA is extra chromosomal DNA found in bacteria, and it is capable of replicating and is independent of chromosomal DNA. While chromosomal DNA forms the complete DNA of an entity found inside the chromosomes. Now next you need to in the same question number 12, you need to differentiate RNA and DNA. So RNA is single stranded molecule and DNA is double stranded molecule. RNA cannot replicate by themselves, while DNA have the potential to replicate. RNA consists of ribose sugar, while DNA consists of deoxyribose sugar. Pyrimidines are uracil and adenine in case of RNA, while in case of DNA, in place of uracil, thymine is there. Okay, so pyrimidines will be thymine and adenine. RNA is a component of ribosome, while DNA is a component of chromosome. Next you need to differentiate exonuclease and endonuclease in same question. And exonuclease both are kind of you can say restriction enzymes, right? Exonuclease is a kind of restriction enzyme which removes nucleotide from 5' end or from 3' end of the DNA. Okay, so it removes nucleotides from the ends of DNA, from the terminal of the DNA molecule. While endonuclease is a kind of restriction enzyme that snips within the DNA at particular sites to produce sticky ends. So it is cutting DNA between the not from the ends. It is cutting the DNA at specific sites and it produces sticky ends.